Time now for this week's Health Matters with PA Lynn Szabo. I've got Lynn Szabo on the phone. Lynn, we're talking, the Johnson & Johnson this week.
Yeah, blood clots and hitting pause.
So, yeah, I'm
So,
looking forward to this because I've only been paying, I'm a Moderna man myself, so I haven't been paying a lot of
oh,
attention to this. So I think I should know
yeah.
what's going
Oh,
on.
well, it's kind of interesting. So, and I wanted to explain it to people, although it's out there in the media already. Hopefully, it can add some stuff. So, these data that we're looking at on the first paragraph, these are about 5 to 7 days old. So, Johnson and Johnson, since it was given the emergency okay by the FDA, 6.8 million doses have been given,
Mm-hmm.
and out of this, 6 women have had problems with clotting. So, all of these women have been in ages 18 to 48, and the problems are developing about 6 to 13 days after vaccination.
Hmm.
One person, unfortunately, has died, and one is in critical care. But the clotting problem is weird, and we'll talk about it in detail. But the name for the main problem is cerebral venous sinus thrombosis.
Okay.
So a little bit of anatomy and pathophysiology. So when the blood goes to the brain, it goes up via the carotid arteries, and its mission is to deliver oxygen. And then after it delivers the oxygen, it sits in a venous kind of pool.
Mm-hmm.
They're called sinuses, but they're not the sinuses that you think of when you have a sinus infection.
Okay.
It kind of looks, it's not really an organized blood vessel or an organized vein. It kind of reminds me, when you look at the gross anatomy, kind of like, where the ponds are up by Cadre Point.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of marshy around the edges, kind of not very well defined, kind of just sitting there.
Okay.
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 And then eventually it kind of drains back through the jugular veins back to the heart to get and then lungs to get reoxygenated. So what happens is there are clots forming in the sinuses, not the nasal
Not this,
sinuses,
but the
but the
part
sinuses.
you've just described, where it sort of
Right,
pools and hangs out for a while
right,
before it drains back
right,
through the cardiopulmonary. Okay, all right.
right.
And of
And
course,
then
yeah, there shouldn't be clots there because then they're gonna
uh,
get into your system that way. Yeah.
then there's pressure on the brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So symptoms of this are really bad headache, kind of alarming changes in vision, weakness and numbness in the face and limbs, sometimes seizures.
Mm.
And it's more likely to happen to younger obese women. No reports of it happening to men.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, scary underlying problem. This is where it gets really weird. Um, there, what happens with this shot is, in some people, so extremely rare, more likely to get hit by lightning twice, 6 in 7 million. But antibodies are formed against platelets, which are
Mm.
the cells that clot blood.
Mm-hmm.
And also antibodies are formed to a part of the clotting cascade. Now, the clotting cascade is how blood clots. It's kind of first this step happens, then this step happens, then this step happens, and there's like 8 or 9 steps and some side steps that feed into it. Really complex. So some of the antibodies are against the platelets, the cells that clot blood, and some are against some of the players in the process of the clotting cascade.
Wow.
So it's like, whoa, that's didn't see that coming. That's really unusual,
Mm-hmm.
but not completely unheard of. So sometimes heparin will do this to people, and sometimes it happens with the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is not approved in our country.
Mm-hmm.
So clots can also form in other parts of the body, and there's a little acronym to kind of remember the symptoms called aches. So it's it talks about severe abdominal pain, severe chest pain, severe headache, severe extremity pain, and extremity swelling. So it's not like you have to think about it. It's
Mm-hmm.
like somebody call 911, something bad is happening.
Right. Right.
Okay. Okay. So there's nothing that's subtle about it whatsoever. So in evaluating this, the FDA decided to use what's they've been calling an abundance of caution, and they pressed pause. So that means that we weren't allowed to give out any more Johnson and Johnson vaccine until they understand this more.
Mm-hmm.
They respond to it on the medical plane, and they explain it in the public plane. So I think they're trying to be transparent. And I also think this pause is about educating healthcare providers, because we're going to see it occasionally. And the problem is that the way that we treat clots is by giving people heparin.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so heparin just by itself can cause this similar reaction.
Right.
And so we want to train and make healthcare providers aware that if somebody's had a J&J vaccine in the previous about 2 weeks, that heparin isn't the way to go here, because you're going to make them much worse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah.
That's something that we're all learning about. So the information that we're getting is addressing that. But the risk of the CVST is 0.5 per 100,000 people per year.
Ordinarily?
Okay,
without the vaccine, without just
no,
natural...
with the vaccine. Sorry,
okay.
With the
okay,
vaccine.
That's not ordinary.
But
then.
with the vaccine, the scary thing is they see it in COVID too.
Mm-hmm.
So independent of being vaccinated. So that rate is 4.5 to 20 per 100,000 people per year.
Wow.
So it's also seen in the AstraZeneca. It's also seen in heparin, independent of COVID.
So help me understand what a scientist would, looking at these sorts of things. I look at this, if there's a higher rate of it occurring in just with COVID, the higher rate of CVST happening in COVID, how can they know that the CVST, which is a much lower rate of occurrence because of the vaccine, that it's caused by the vaccine and not just tagging along on somebody's COVID? Is it because these people didn't have COVID, right? Is that what you're saying?
Right. These people did not have COVID. I imagine they were tested for it.
Right.
And because especially at least two of them, one died and one is in a critical care state. So I imagine they tested them because they would do that routinely anyway.
My next question being, is 6 women out of 7 million? How does that compare to side effects, bad effects of other vaccines?
You mean like potentially fatal side effects?
Yeah.
Or you mean I felt crummy for a day? I think that's still pretty low. I think that's really, really low. So I think you're moving away from higher risk to greater benefit if you get vaccinated. But I think we also have to protect these people and have the medical community have an awareness of what it is, how to recognize it, and how to appropriately treat it. Mm-hmm. And I think that with a lot of things in COVID, science really wants to be transparent. And so when you're talking to people about risk benefit of different vaccines, this is a risk. They haven't come out and said it directly, but I don't think they're calling it a risk for men. I think it's just risk for women. It's only been observed in women. The vaccine-associated problem has only been seen in women.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
Yeah. So there's something called VAERS, which is called the Vaccine Adverse Event Reaction Symptoms. And anybody can report. It's an online database. And, let's say, I don't know, my younger sister, gets her vaccine and she wants to report that her arm was sore. So you can go ahead and report that, but mostly it's used by physicians and other healthcare providers to report things that we see as maybe more significant events. Mm-hmm. But since they're getting so many reports from so many different people, you can't really say just because somebody reports a reaction it means the vaccine caused it.
I think I'm surprised. I guess I'm surprised that they're allowing just anybody to go on and report stuff. It seems like that's going to muddy the waters.
This is a kind of problem with anti-vaxxers in general, because this virus exists in a bigger world than COVID, and so people can go ahead and report anything. They're not really looking at each individual report. They're looking for trends. So a lot of that reporting data is just parked there and nothing's really done with it. But they're not looking at just temporal associations with random things. They're really looking for trends. And so this is how they first noticed it with these women. What's up with us now? So anticipate this pause will be short. In fact, I think in a couple of days we're going to go vaccinating again. If you got Johnson & Johnson more than 2 to 3 weeks ago and you had no problem, then you don't have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this problem does not extend to the messenger RNA vaccines, but it might extend to the AstraZeneca vaccine, which has not been okayed in the United States yet.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So when you said you were a Moderna guy,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, be a Moderna guy, be a Pfizer guy.
Yeah.
So right now, if you're at all worried. And Johnson & Johnson, just for kind of scale, only represents less than 5% of the vaccines given in the United States right now.
Oh, wow.
So this pause should not slow the effort down at all. So last time when we talked about the mass vax event that was in at Smith River last Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
and it was planned to be a Johnson & Johnson, it pivoted really quickly to Moderna. And unfortunately, that event was kind of poorly attended for maybe a lot of reasons. I don't really know. I wasn't involved in the planning of it, but I think they saw 27 people, and they're hoping future events are going to be better attended. I think maybe as the community is a little bit less nervous about that. They kind of had poor timing with the Johnson & Johnson coming out like a day or two after they announced their mass vax event.
Right.
Yeah. So hopefully, that'll pick up. I think they're going to have another one on the 15th. So anyway, don't delay immunization. Moderna and Pfizer vaccines are quite safe. I've heard that Rite Aid is again vaccinating young people ages 16 and up. They stopped for a while because, the head of Rite Aid didn't want the hassle, I guess, of immunizing kids under 18 because there needs to be parental support of it. As far as malpractice, you have to kind of, the period of time lasts longer and stuff, and they felt there was more risk, so they stopped doing that for a short period of time. But they've restarted it, so if you're 16 to 18, your choice is Pfizer, and you can get it at Rite Aid. They're doing that again, but you have to bring your parents, and your parents have to be willing to sign consent forms.
Okay.
So it's a little more complicated.
And just for those for anybody in those 2 years, 16, 17, right? After 18, you're on your own.
After 18, you're good. So you can do whatever it is you want. Although when you're under 18, you do have the right to birth control and reproductive health care, but not vaccination, really.
Wow.
Yeah. So the good news is that there is so much vaccine around, especially Moderna. We're kind of awash in it.
Nice.
Yeah, I read on Loco that Humboldt County actually sent 1,000 doses down to San Francisco because they had way too much.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think at United Indian Health we have something like 300 doses that we didn't expect to come. Showed up.
The last update from Dr. Ray Walt, Delaware County Public Health Officer, he said something about there would have been 12,000 doses administered in Delaware County to date. And whether or not that's half dose, whatever. That doesn't equate to 6,000, or 6,000 people. But he said about 40%, I think it was 38%, 40% of seniors in Delaware are fully vaccinated now.
That's really great. That was super awesome.
But of course,
yeah, he was at the mass vax event at Smith River, kind of walking around, talking to people. It was nice to see him there. So.
Wow. Well,
so we're flush with vaccine. There's really no more restrictions except for that minor age one. I think kids are going to start under 16 or probably start to get immunized. My guess is like early summer.
Yeah.
And it should be relatively easy. The only problem I've seen about is the My Turn app. The California State. I guess database where you can get notified if you have an opportunity. You can go online and find your opportunities to get vaccinated. Designed by city people, I would think, because they, for certain zip codes, they wrote in kind of a restriction that the the data or the possibilities for appointments greater than 40 miles away from where you live.
Oh, wow.
You just don't get that information greater than 40 miles. So if you live in certain parts of like southern Humboldt, or I would imagine up around the Bald Hills, or maybe closer to Hoopa, you can't get all your vaccine opportunities available to you because somebody finds it hard to believe that people would drive more than 40 miles for health care.
Yeah, that's a city person.
Yeah,
Wow,
it's a
wow.
city person.
So, but
That's not like here.
how important is that database anyway nowadays? Since we've dropped all the different tranches and tiers, and now it's just basically a cattle call. If you're ready to get vaccinated, come get vaccinated.
I think right now it's kind of public health, or kind of publicity more. It's run by, I think it's run by Blue Shield right now instead of the state, and that probably happened the last month or so, and I found it to be completely useless. I vaccinated my whole extended family without any help whatsoever from it.
Yeah,
it was very frustrating.
I haven't heard anybody said, "Oh, I found out about this on my turn." I've heard people, "Hey, yeah, I signed up, I got on there," but when it comes down to it, it's who they know, or it's their local pharmacist, or it's one of the county vaccination events.
Absolutely. And when we talk next week, I wrote up a kind of information about the vaccines that other parts of the world are using.
Neat.
Because it's not only the ones but I'll give you a little, I guess, snippet from that, is that in Russia, they just text you. They just text you and they say, hey, be at this place at this time. We got your immunization.
Come get vaccination. And
yeah. And while it's cool that they do that, it's a little bit weird that the government knows exactly who you are, how to get a hold of you via the phone. And I don't know, that was a little bit weird, but you don't have to do anything. They just sign you up. So,
I don't know. Maybe they've got all the files laying around from the Soviet Union still, or maybe I don't know. The head of the KGB ended up being lifetime president. But they still have those capabilities. I guess there's something reassuring about that. Maybe, I don't know.
Oh, it's a little bit weird, but okay. They're immunizing their people, though. They're really on it.
Yeah.
Although there's a lot of distrust, people are still presenting their arms to get the shot.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we'll talk about that more next week.
I look forward to that. That's interesting. I've been watching travel vlogs and trying to travel like in my head, because I still am not able to do it physically. And so yeah, this will tie right in with that. I can get vaccinated in some far off exotic locale.
Yeah, actually, it's very clever what other countries are doing, so that there's a lot to talk about there. So
cool.
Next week, okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I look forward to that, and we'll talk to you then on next week's Health Matters, Lynn.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.